Okay.
We let everyone in who's in.
Everybody's in who's in, I think.
Right, okay, brilliant. So let me start. So good afternoon and welcome. My name is Councillor Jeremy Pert. I am the Cabinet Member for Communities and Health at Stafford Borough Council and the Deputy Leader. So first of all, thank you to everyone who is joining this webinar this afternoon and giving up your time to do so. This is the second. We had a fantastic, no pressure there, Brad. We had a fantastic first webinar with Beat the Cold. For those people who haven't seen that or weren't able to attend, please go and download it. Go and engage with that. A really good first webinar. This is our second webinar, and it's with Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Services. I'll just talk a bit about that in a moment if I can. But the aim of this webinar is, or series of webinars, is designed to help people to have easier, more knowledgeable conversations and feel able to signpost people to the right support available within the borough. To have some of those valuable conversations with people that we come across. This series includes today's one with the Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and really it's been designed so that it fits into some of the pressures that people in our communities will be seeing. And I recognise that fire safety might not seem an important thing to talk about, but people might have changed behaviours in the last 6 months because of the cost of living crisis that they're seeing. Second of all, there are things inherent within all of our homes that potentially create a fire risk. And one of the things the fire service has been brilliant nationally at doing is reducing the number of fires and obviously then the impact from those fires. And if I look at the number of fires across the country last year, that we've seen in the last 10 years a reduction of 32% across the country. And that's a real testament to the work that the Fire and Rescue Service has done. And obviously there's been a similar impact in terms of those number of people who have been seriously hurt from those fires. Fantastic job that the fire service has done, and obviously the more we can all do in terms of prevention, the better it is. So in terms of the rest of the webinar series that we've got lined up for people, just want to promote those if I can, please. We've got the fabulous Hayley Smith talking next week about housing options and the great work that she and her team does to ensure people have a secure roof over their heads. And then we've got the Citizens Advice, the CAB, talking about budgeting and general advice, particularly in terms of signposting. We've got a slot booked with Chris Butcher from Housing Standards, talk about mould and damp issues. And I'm sure we'll recognise how serious mould and damp issues can be on people's health. And it would be tempting for many people to ignore those. But actually, there are things that people can do to reduce the incidence of mould and damp and then the impact on individuals' health. And finally, I just wanted to move on and just thank some of our long-standing partners who have helped put up the network of warm spaces across Stafford Borough. The Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, as well as the Community Foundation. And one of the webinars we've got coming up is actually with the Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, and they will talk a bit about their Staying Well service and as well as those warm spaces. So the aim of the webinars, and we're recording today's, so that if you want to refer other people back to them or to watch it back at any stage, or any of them or all of them, then you're able to do so. But the aim of the webinars is to help volunteers to be able to have the background knowledge and insight to be able to have those worthwhile conversations at any stage with people that they come across from within their communities, whether that be in a warm space itself or whether it just be generally out in the community. And they're designed not to make people experts, but just to help provide some insight. We're not looking for people to have difficult conversations, but instead rich and valuable conversations to help people to get the help and support that they may need. Not a panacea. They won't answer every question that people may get, but it may help provide some confidence and then for those people to be able to provide a pathway to find out more or to be able to get the support that they need. They're aimed at volunteers, support workers in the community, or maybe even the individuals direct, albeit the latter is probably less likely. So I just before I pass over to Brad Robbins, I just wanted to thank everyone in the Warm Spaces networks for doing what they're doing, and thank you for putting up those warm spaces, providing a warm welcome, a warm space, a warm meal, or a warm drink. So thank you for everything that you've done. I think we all recognised last year that in the middle of last year that there was something that we all needed to do to help people in our communities combat the crisis that the cost of living has presented. And I think that this network is brilliant because no one party, either the Warm Spaces themselves, the Borough Council, the Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, or the Community Foundation, could have done this without everybody else who's around the table. So I'm delighted that we've played our part in it. I'm delighted that I'm playing my part in it, and literally thank you that you are doing what you're doing as Warm Spaces. The format of this afternoon is really simple. I'm going to hand over very shortly to Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and I'm going to give them the floor for about 20 to 30 minutes so that they can talk about some of the things that they're seeing. They can provide some really practical advice and no doubt some top tips and maybe some examples. And they're going to leave us with a really clear understanding of some of the things that they're concerned about and some of the advice that they would like to try and get out into the community as well. After they've finished their speaking slot, we'll go to Q&A. If people can put any questions they've got into the chat function, I'll be really grateful. But if you're watching this back, and obviously this is a live recording, so if you're watching it back, it won't be live. So if you've got further questions, by all means, come back to us as a Borough Council, or we may even be able to provide some contact, probably for Caroline, I would guess. But if individual members of the public have got some questions, then I'm sure we'll be able to field them. So without further ado, please settle back, grab your notepads and pens, and let me hand over to Brad Robbins at the magical, fantastic Fire and Rescue Service across Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, obviously.
Thank you ever so much, Jeremy. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brad Robbins, one of the community safety officers covering the west of the county, Stafford, Stone, Cannock and South Staffs. So my role within Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service is to go out to those who are most vulnerable and make sure they are safe from fires. Along with dual role with operational, so we do see both sides of it, is where things haven't gone quite right. And we can talk about a few case studies, as Jeremy's mentioned as well, where things haven't gone quite right and we could have prevented it from happening, and how you guys can also help us to identify these people and what referral avenues you can use, and also contact me directly, as you're obviously within my area. So do feel free to come to me directly with any questions you've got, and we'll make sure we'll get them answered as best as possible, or even pop out and see you if needs be. So of course the first law question is, what does the fire service do? So what is our offer? So our offer is a safe and well visit where we look at pretty much everything. So we're not just solely focused on fire. We do look at the social needs of individuals. Can we support them in their day-to-day living? And obviously, as Jeremy's mentioned, the cost of living crisis that we're all going through currently. So are they having issues with heating the homes? So we work very closely with Beat the Cold, which I'm sure you've seen last week, where Beat the Cold, you can complete a referral form. You may be able to get a fuel voucher to heat your home through a voucher, and then we can provide oil-filled radiators alongside Beat the Cold. So that's just one thing we're looking at during these tough times with the financial crisis ahead of us. Now, When you are going into people's properties and you're identifying hazards, the first thing we look at is sort of the basics, is have they got working smoke alarms, which are these things that you'll see on the ceiling. Have they got those, first of all, at the bottom of the stairs and top of the stairs? Okay. If not, that's straight away a referral to us so we can come and put those in. We also want to see if they've got now a heat alarm within the kitchen, which doesn't necessarily detect smoke, it detects the heat. So when you open your cooker and you get that bit of smoke, bit of steam coming out, it won't activate then. It's looking for a flame at that point. We do provide those out and install those into the kitchen, along with a carbon monoxide alarm as well next to the boiler. So any gases that are being leaked from the boiler that we don't want you breathing in, we will supply a carbon monoxide alarm, all free of charge. And again, this is, as we're maybe aware, that the gas, the carbon monoxide, is what we call the silent killer. We can't taste it, we can't smell it, we can't see it. Okay, it simply leaks from a solid burning appliance or our boilers and fills each gap up until it becomes into our breathing space, and unfortunately then makes us become unconscious and can potentially be fatal. So we do definitely recommend those ones more than the smoke alarm. So if you haven't got any of those, please do refer to us. And I'm going to come to at the end how you can refer to us and the different contact numbers and online forms you can complete. Now, as well, part of that safe and well visit, so we've talked about the alarms and we've talked about protecting the property, but what about the individual? Okay, what about that person? We've touched on the financial support around the heat in the home. But for example, if they are smoking in bed and they are bedbound and they can't get out of bed to have a cigarette, we have identified a potential risk there where they could drop their cigarette onto the bed, they could drop it onto the carpet, and unfortunately, the most recent fatal fire we've had, which was only yesterday, being the 1st of February 2020, is from an elderly lady who was bedbound and unfortunately dropped a cigarette onto her bed. Again, that's just one this year already. We've had a number of those last year. So we have identified this as a common issue within Staffordshire at the moment. So what can the fire service do for that? So we have purchased some flame retardant bedding. So we offer that in double and single. So this is a bed cover that goes over your mattress, okay, over your duvet, and also a pillowcase as well. So if your cigarette or you drop your cigarette onto your bed, the idea of it, yes, it will still smoke to alert you because you may be asleep. So it will still smoke, so it will still set your smoke alarm off, but there will be no flame. So this is preventing you from becoming burnt within that type of incident. You may still have a little chesty cough because the smoke obviously gives off toxic fumes, but it won't smoke as much as your normal bedding. And we give that out, as I say, free of charge. And that is anybody who is or may need that. But we do specifically look at those who are most vulnerable, such as being bedbound and unable to get out. Now, if somebody can get out and have a cigarette outside and they are perfectly mobile to do that, we wouldn't recommend that as the best bet. We also identified an issue around ashtrays. Now, recently within the pandemic, we've seen that people are worried about going outside, even to empty their ashtray. So we've brought and purchased some flame retardant bins. So these bins are, I haven't brought one with me, which is very bad planning on my behalf. Standard bin, which is coated in a special material to extinguish your cigarettes instantly. So you drop it into this bin, it instantly extinguishes that. There can be any other materials in there as well, such as cigarette packets, and it will not combust. It's the way the bin's designed, so it's a lot safer for our general community to be having. Now, again, another one of probably our second most person at risk is our hard of hearing people. So those who have an hearing impairment. We have developed smoke alarms that they can feel and sight, such as vibrating pillow pads, which goes under the pillow to alert them to the fire. And also as a sight, so it's a flashing strobe, which will continue to flash until somebody's reacted. and these can be connected to our contact centre directly. So if this does happen and does go off, okay, it automatically can send a fire appliance. The fire crew will come out, they will check, for example, if it's just some burnt toast, it's a bit of a slap on the wrist and say, don't do that again, and we'll go away. Whereas if it is a developed fire or an incident that's occurred, we're there a lot quicker than that individual trying to call 999. As we mentioned, they might have a hearing impairment, so they might not be able to hear the operator. So we're already on our way and mobile to that incident where we can check and deal with that incident as quick and as safe as possible. So that is our assistive technology offer of what we offer currently. Also within that, we do have technicians that are BSL, British Sign Language trained, and will come out and work with that individual. We'll also work with that individual with social workers and with any other agency that are trying to become involved in them. So we've talked about obviously a few issues. We now want to know, how can you get in touch with us? How can you contact us? I'm just going to share my screen just for a moment. We did test this earlier, so I'm hoping it's still going to work. Okay, I'm hoping. So just for those on the chat, can you see a Safe and Well page now?
Yes, that's perfect.
Splendid.
So Safe and Well, get in contact.
That's the one. So on our website, and I will send a link out to Amanda just so she can share that with everybody. So on our website, we have a page on there called Your Safety. Now on there is everything we have to offer. So that's from our Safe and Well visit as we're speaking, our Safe and Sound offer, which is our education offer for Key Stage 1 and 2 primary school, which is where we'll come and deliver safety messages to the young people. We have our safeguarding and our fire safe. So our fire safe is a fairly new scheme. I say fairly new, probably the last 3 years, where we offer to come out and speak to young people who have a habit of setting fires and make them realise the consequences of setting those fires and the potential risks that they posed from setting a small fire where a fire appliance will have to attend to, that fire appliance missing a house fire because the next nearest one is, for example, in Rugeley, if you're going to Cannock or some distance away. We educate them as best as possible through that, through referrals from the Prince's Trust scheme and through the police. You'll see on there as well, we also have our Olive Branch training package, which is for those who are in professions, such as our volunteers, who are dealing with at-risk members of the community. And that is to develop how to spot things around the home. So with our volunteers, and unless you do correct me if I'm wrong, do you do home visits, or is it more just the warm calves and out in the community?
Anna, do you want me to answer that? Or
Yeah, go on.
No.
I'll pass that on to you.
Sorry, I was just trying to find the button there. These webinars are principally aimed at those volunteers who are working in the warm spaces, but are also available to all voluntary groups and other organisations like that. So there will be a mix, I'd say predominantly where visitors actually go to a venue, but there is also some home visiting as well on some of the other ones.
Splendid. Thank you ever so much for that, Amanda. So Olive Branch is a training package which we're currently in the process of developing to be able to identify these most at-risk people when you are in their homes. So there is a case study on that around Olive Simcock, who is an elderly lady who unfortunately passed away in a fire. And we've done a lot of learning since her incident, and this is why we've developed this package, which is obviously currently underway at the moment. Now, for the Safe and Well and how you can get in contact with us and how you can refer to us is, first of all, is through the contact centre. Okay, these are manned 8 till 5 on a weekday, and you can call that number there, which is 0800 0241 999, and they will basically pass you a technician who will be able to come out to your home and do a full assessment on the home, check in that candles are all safe, smoking, you're all safe, Any electrical items, so we'll do a full electrical test and make sure that plugs, sockets are all safe to be used. Electric blankets is another big one, especially again with the financial crisis we're heading for. Making sure that you are heating your home safely, and if not, what can we do, such as give you the oil-filled radiators, etc. So give that number a call. Okay, hard of hearing, you can text the mobile number that's in front of you there, which is the 07 528 983 101. Okay, or if you have got access to the internet, you'll see a link there to our partner referral form. So that form you can fill out, if I get it to load up, so you can fill that out with all the client's information, and that will ping through to our community safety officers such as myself, and we'll go out pretty much that day it pings through. We try and get out there within the 24-hour period as best as we can, and obviously with people being available for that. So a few safety tips then of how to stay safe within your home, a few safety tips. So it's again, make sure we have those 4 alarms, which are the one at the bottom of your stairs, smoke alarm, the one at the top of your stairs, again being a smoke alarm, the carbon monoxide next to a boiler or any solid burning appliances, and the heat alarm within the kitchen. Okay, make sure we've got those in place. Check that your cooking equipment is all clean and free from any fat or grease buildup that may cause a fire. Again, we offer this service on our Safe and Well visit. Ensure plug sockets are not overloaded. Okay, the 13 amp rule, we do check that, and we do carry a bit of a calculator. So what is the 13 amp rule, you might ask? So 13 amps is the amount of electricity drawn by anything really that heats up, such as your hair dryers, your straighteners, your tumble dryers, things like that are all got to be on a plug socket completely on their own, okay, because they draw the full 13 amps. However, things like your TV, your Skybox, your PlayStations, your Xboxes, they draw lower ampage. So for example, a standard TV will draw about 3 amps. A Skybox tends to draw about 3 amps, exactly the same. Again, PlayStation is around 3 amps. So if we add all that together, that only gives us 9 amps. So we still have a spare 4 amps that we can plug into that extension lead. However, if we've got, for example, a TV, a PlayStation, a Skybox, a landline telephone, and let's say a mobile phone plugged in, if we add all those up, so a TV being 3, a Skybox being 3, a broadband being just a 1 on its own, a mobile phone charger being 5, if we add all that up straight away, we're all over that 13 amp rule. So our electrics are overloaded. Okay, and we can find a calculator on that on electricalsafety.co.uk. Okay, we need to make sure that all our electrical appliances are fit for purpose. Okay, so for example, if we've brought a brand new tumble dryer, dishwasher, fridge freezer, anything like that, when we get our brand new tumble dryer, we're all really excited to plug it in and test it out. But how many of us actually look what's inside that pack? So inside the tumble dryer, there is a pack. It tends to have the instruction manual in, warranty details in, but also it has a big orange sticker that says, "Register me now." That is probably the most important piece of paper within that pack. Okay, now that is to register your product to your address. So for example, if the fire service go out to a number of fires with that product, we identify a pattern, we'll approach the manufacturer and say, there is an issue with your tumble dryers. Then they have a duty of care to recall that product. So if you've registered your product and we issue a recall notice onto it, you'll get a letter to say you are entitled to a free tumble dryer because it has a few safety concerns. And then they come out, they replace it straight away. However, if you haven't if you haven't registered your tumble dryer, the manufacturers won't know that it's in your property. So potentially you could have a product that's on the recall list and still be using it every day unsafely. So again, part of our Safe and Well check, we'll check these for you. If you have got a product there that's on the recall list, we'll work with you to get a new one or get the place part changed. For example, one that is fairly recent, I say 12 months ago now actually, that come out was HP laptops. Big recall on those due to a battery fault. Okay, we attended 2 or 3 fires within Staffordshire. Obviously, bigger services such as London, West Midlands, etc. They attended a lot more, and we obviously all put our data together, identified there was this issue, and everyone who had their products registered got a free new laptop or got the battery replaced if it needed. Now, even if you've had your tumble dryer, let's say 10 years, okay, and you still haven't registered, it's not too late. You can register it today. If it's on that recall list, you'll still get your letter come through. So do make sure everything is on there. Make sure we've got an escape route planned. How are we going to get out? So, for example, if the fire's in the kitchen, which way can we go? The back door might be out of use, so let's use the front door. And where are our keys kept at night? Are they in our pockets next to the bed? Are they behind a wall, behind a photo frame on the wall? You know, always make sure you know where your keys are so you can get out of that property and know which way you're going. And then one of our probably most important messages, if you do discover a fire, get out, stay out, call 999. We've had a number of cases where people have attempted to go in and tackle the fire themselves, and unfortunately have become injured or fatally injured. We definitely recommend get out, stay out, and call us. Walk on with all the equipment, the PPE, to be able to deal with the fire and keep it safe, and keep you guys safe as well. Now, we do have a fire safety in the home booklet, which is downloadable, so you can give these out at your warm spaces, or if you would like any delivering to your warm spaces, Amanda, if you just drop me an email with the addresses at the end, I'm more than happy to deliver some of those to the warm spaces as well. So you've got them. We have them in a range of different languages, so there's no language barriers there for anybody. We can get as many of those out as possible if you need them. That is, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone again. That is pretty much it from myself. If there's any questions, do... Oh, there we go. If there is any questions, do feel free to ask me. I will give you my direct contact details as well, which feel free to call me. I haven't got a screen for it, so I'm going to read it out to you. So I say, my name is Brad Robbins, Community Safety Officer for the Western Service Delivery Group, covering Stafford, Stone, Cannock and South Staffs. The best contact number to get me on if you do need me and want to speak to me directly is 01785 898839. That's 01785 898839. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. And say if there are any questions, do feel free to throw them at me.
Brad, that's really useful and really incisive. I didn't realise or recognise how much free stuff is available to people to just keep them safe in their homes, and I think that's really good. And you know, I've certainly seen these carbon monoxide alarms, you know, next door to the solid fuel burners, and you know, I think it's a really good thing because it keeps people safe and well, and that's really helpful. And obviously, there's a whole range of risk factors that, you know, people possibly ignore day one. Day two, they carry on ignoring it, and they carry on. You know, whether it's frayed flexes or candles or overheating sockets or electrical equipment, and you know, there's often this sort of suggestion, isn't there, that people turn off their appliances at the wall rather than leaving them on because they're consuming electricity, but equally, you know, if they do warm up, then potentially it's another risk factor or another sort of place where a fire could start. So that's very useful. And I didn't realise either how keen you'd be to go out and visit community groups and to go even down to individual homes of people that we're concerned about. So thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions, which I'll come on to if I can in a minute. But the other thing that I had noticed was that fire officers quite often are able to get into people's homes more easily than some other public sector professionals. And particularly when you take my friend Dennis, these big ubiquitous fire engines out with you. So always impressed with what you can do in people's homes, and that you're seen as trusted and people are very open and amenable to getting your input to those things. So a couple of questions, if I may, please. First of all, I believe that you've got a falls prevention service that certainly I'd seen in Lichfield, and I thought that was really impressive. And I think that's a new service that you're running. I think I saw something with microfabricant on the ground. But equally, second, could you tell us a bit more about it? Is my question there. And second of all, we're thinking in the borough of giving out some slow cookers in a couple of weeks' time. Have you got some advice on that as well, please?
Yeah, of course I have. Thanks, Jeremy. So yes, the fall prevention team, how could I miss those? I did forget all about those. So yes, this is a new service we've developed with the NHS. So was presented with a problem by the NHS that with the ambulance demand, they were struggling to get to patients that had a fall. Now, these patients could have a fall and be relatively uninjured, potentially just need putting back into the bed or back into the chair. But the ambulance demand at the time is obviously so high, they were having something called a long lie, which is where they've been on the floor for approximately more than 8 hours due to ambulance demand. So we formed a team from the NHS where we have 4 members of our staff in vans covering the east of the county, where they will go out and they will pick these people up and put them either back into bed. They'll do a quick medical assessment on them, make sure they're all okay, and prevent that long lie. So potentially they might be on the floor for an hour, 2 hours, but we aim to be there as quick as possible. So this is preventing those, what we call a long lie. Now, if a elderly member of the community is on the ground for approximately longer than 8 hours, that is then a hospital trip due to potential muscle wastage and a few other clinical interventions they may need. So that's them going into hospital because they've been on the ground for so long. However, with our teams now getting there between 1 and 2 hours, we will go out and, I'd say, put them back into bed if they are okay. Now, when these calls come in, so they are triaged at the ambulance control, West Midlands Ambulance Control Room, and they are basically given a colour. So red, amber and green. Now, red is they've had a fall, but there's something else not quite right. Potential stroke, potential heart attack, potential clinical intervention. So obviously that will still follow the process of a Cat 1 response from the ambulance service for an ambulance to attend. There's then the amber, which is, again, they've had a fall, but they may have broken a bone, leg, ankle, anything like that. They still require clinical intervention. So the ambulance service, again, will still respond to them, but we might be asked, can we support? But the ambulance will still need to go for the clinical intervention. And then the green call is where somebody's had a fall, they've not broken any bones, or they're perfectly okay. They just simply need picking up and putting back to bed. And that is where the fire service will go. It's a non-emergency response, so we'll have that call come through, and then 2 people in a van will proceed at, say, normal road speed, pick them up, pop them back into bed, just check the smoke alarms, check they've got a cup of tea until the next carers come, and make sure that they are safe within their property. Sorry, Jeremy, what was your second question?
My second question was about slow cookers. The borough is thinking of trying to provide some slow cookers to maybe through the warm spaces, but certainly to people in the community. Have you got any advice with slow cookers? I have seen you seem to be running is there a competition you're running?
There is, yes. So I think we're part of that scheme as well. Now, a slow cooker being left on that's their design to be left on. Okay, their design is to slowly cook whatever ingredients you've got in there for over a period of 8 hours. So the manufacturers have to take that into consideration, that they are designed to be on, so they need to put extra safety mechanisms within the product, which they have done. And that is why, this scheme has been set up, because one, they're a lot safer, they're economically friendly, and they're helping a lot of people out. So yes, 100% get out there. If buy slow cookers, if you're lucky enough to get a free one from the boroughs, by all means do that as well. But yes, slow cookers are the way forward, and hopefully will be a lot safer and keeping you all safe within the home. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. And I can see that you've got some recipe card ideas on your website as well. And there's a really good article you've got on your website, which is really good advice for people using heating sources for the first time or they haven't used regularly. Things like, if you're going to start using your fireplace again, to get your chimney swept. Really good advice, and really just helps keep people safe. And obviously things like keeping a safe distance away from heaters and open fires. Again, obvious advice, but sometimes when you're faced with difficult choices, sometimes it's easy to forget these sorts of things. So maybe we'll send that link around as well, so that's helpful. So I've got another question which has come in, which is the demand for your services could be significant, given what you've said this afternoon, Brad. I know it's aimed at vulnerable residents, but do you have any specific eligibility criteria?
So our eligibility criteria is, we do have some, okay, and we do sift through them, and it's basically on a case-by-case basis. Now, if those for yourselves who are out on volunteering and have identified somebody that is vulnerable, there is no eligibility, because you have identified them as one of our partners that are at risk. However, if we say, for example, Bill, who is a CEO at Amazon, or somebody who is quite well off, okay, wants some free smoke alarms, we'll be saying, Bill, there's Wix's down the road. However, if you want some advice of where to install them, what you need to do, we're more than happy to give that, okay. But for vulnerable members of the community, we are more than happy to come out as often as we need to make sure you are safe. And we will go out to anybody to make sure they are safe on that.
Now that's really helpful, and thank you. And I'm sure that advice is worth, sort of worth a lot to individuals as well. But equally being able to understand that, actually the majority of people within the warm spaces, you'll be welcome to see and talk to and help support, I think is really good, particularly when times are tough for many people. So thank you for that. I've not got any further questions. I have got a further question. I need to get. I need to look in the right place. If you get equipment like tumble dryers, which are second hand, because you're trying to save money, would you recommend getting them tested to ensure they're safe? And if you do recommend they're tested, how would someone go about that?
Yeah, no, thanks ever so much. So, buying tumble dryers secondhand, yes, do that, but do check, is the fluff all clear? Is the underneath all clean? To make sure it is as safe as possible. If you are buying electrical products secondhand, we would recommend getting something called a PAT test, portable appliance testing, which can be done through your local electrician. They tend to cost between £1 and £2 an item, so it's not massively expensive, but that will test all the electrical components and the wiring of that product. Again, that can just be done through a local electrician on checkertrade.com and any other reputable websites to make sure that is tested, basically. But they will come out by all means and get it tested. But as part of our Safe and Well visit, we can check the fluff to make sure it's all clear. We can check the underneath part of it to make sure, again, it's all clear and there's nothing that can ignite. But just recapping, the wiring and the components testing is done by a local electrician, as I say.
That's really helpful. And thank you, Brad, for giving us such a good, insightful view of various things within fire safety. As you said already, clearly you're happy to take, as is your teams within Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service. And what a great job you do keeping us safe. But you're obviously happy to have other wider conversations. So thank you for offering to do that, because I think it just means that if people have got a wider range of questions or very specific questions, they can come back to you and feel reassured. So thank you for this afternoon. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and insight. And we look forward to seeing you out and about in some of the warm spaces, as well as within some of our communities. So thank you, Brad, and have a great afternoon.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
I'm hoping the recording says it's. There you go.